Srimad Bhagavatam class.
Jai.
Jai.
We're so fortunate to have this opportunity to hear from the Grantharaj, the king of all literatures, Srimad Bhagavatam. And we have a very nice verse today. It's 10th canto, chapter 84, text 13. It's a very famous verse. Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse many times in his lectures and in his purports to other verses. So it's a little bit of a heavy verse. It's a powerful verse, and it's kind of a reality check. So let's recite this verse together. Yasyatma buddhi kudame. I'll say it here. Yasyatma buddhi kudape tridatuke.
Yasyatma buddhi kudape tridatuke.
Kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Swadi kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke.
Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke.
Kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Swadi kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Yasyatma buddhi gunape tridhatuke.
Yasyatma buddhi gunape tridhatuke.
Kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Swadi kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Yeshu saeva gokara.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Yasyatma buddhi gunape tridhatuke.
Yasyatma buddhi gunape tridhatuke.
Swadhi kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Swadi kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Yasyatma buddhi kunape tridhatuke.
Yasyatma buddhi gunape tridhatuke.
Swadi kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Swadi kalatradishubhoma ijyadi.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Yatirtha buddhi salilena karichit.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
Janeshvavigyeshu saeva gokara.
So we'll do the word for word together. Yasya,
Yasya,
Atma as his self.
Buddhi, idea, kunape, in a corpse-like body. Tridhatuke, made of three basic elements. Swa as his own. Di, idea. Kalatradishu, in wife and so on. Bhome, in earth. Ijya, as worshipful. Di, idea. Yat, whose. Tirtha, at the place of pilgrimage. Buddhi, idea. Salile, in water. Nakarichit, never. Janeshu, in men. Abhigyeshu, wise. Saha, he. Eva, indeed. Cow. Rara, or an ass.
Translation. One who identifies his self as the inert body composed of mucus, bile, and air, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipable, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, but who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth. Such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. So, this before we get to the purport, so there's a few categories here of people who are no better than cows or asses. So what is one of the groups of people?
Those who identify with the body.
Okay, those who identify with the body. Yasyatma buddhi, kunape chudatuke. So the word kunape that's used here actually means corpse. It means a dead body. So that word is emphasizing that this body is just a dead lump of matter. The only reason it can do anything is because of the presence of the soul inside. The soul is the real, source of life that's just animating this body. Just like if I would pick up this piece of paper, it's just dead matter. But because I'm a living soul, then I can move it around, I can fold it, I can write, I can use it for my purposes. So in the same way, this body is just dead matter. And because the living soul is within it, then we can move it, we can use it, we can, operate it according to our purposes. But really, it's just composed of these three basic elements, according to Ayurveda, Tri Dhatu. Prabhupada adds that in here, the Tri Dhatus, mucus, bile, and air. So we're just like, so who wants to identify themselves with mucus, bile, and air? Like, here I am, I'm this form made of mucus, bile, and air. It's not very, self-aggrandizing, it's not very, how can you really value yourself if you just think you're this body that's, going through transformations and is ultimately going to die, and as the Bhagavatam says, it's going to end up either being ashes, stool, or... What's the third thing?
Food for the worms?
Food, but then it becomes stool. So ashes if you burn it.
Yeah.
Stool, I think it's... Stool if you bury it and it decomposes and animals eat it and kind of poop it out. And then, I can't remember the other one. Anyways, the body doesn't have a glorious fate. It's doomed to become something inglorious. And then the only glory of it is if we can use it in the service of Krishna. And then the body becomes glorious. And the process of devotional service is so wonderful that we can take this, corpse made out of mucus, bile, and air, and we can turn it into spiritual, we can spiritualize it and give it ultimate value. It can aid us in achieving the ultimate goal of human life. So, but in order to do that, we need to seek wisdom from the wise. That's why he's saying that people who identify with this body and don't feel kinship with or worship or even visit those who are wise in spiritual truth, they're no better than a cow or an ass, because they're not making use of the boon of the human form of life. Because out of all the different species, 8,400,000 species, the human form of life is the only form in which we can actually benefit from the instruction of saintly personalities of the scriptures and establish that connection with the Lord. Realize who we are, realize our relationship with God, and go back home, back to Godhead. So if we don't do that, we don't take advantage of this opportunity, then what's the use of being a human being? You may as well just be a cow or an ass, or any other animal, or plant, or an insect, or creature. So, if we don't take advantage of this opportunity, then there's a good chance that in our next life we will be an animal again. People will become animals again. So all of those who are here and hearing this class are, at least going to have a human birth in the next body, if not, go back to the spiritual world. So, you should all, what should I say it? You're all very fortunate, you're all very wise that you're making the most of this opportunity, making proper use of human intelligence. So, all glories to all of you present here. Jai. All right. What's another category of people listed here?
Those attached to their families.
Those attached to the family. Yeah. So this is Swadi Kalatra Dishu. Kalatra means wife or spouse. So whenever wife is used in this context, it can also mean husband for the women. So it basically means your spouse. And then Adishu, like Srivas, Adi Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. So Srivas and all the other devotees. So it's like wife and everything else. It's like, you know, you're living in the ashram, simple life, simple living, high thinking. It's all very, you know, easy. Then you get married, you get a wife or a husband, and then all of a sudden you need a house, you need a job, you need a car, kids come, you got to worry about education and bills, and, you know, life becomes complicated. Like all these other things come along. And then any extra time or money you get, you just end up investing on, you know, improving your house, you know, making the garden nice, repairing things, or, you know, buying things for your wife or husband or kids, or taking them out somewhere. And it's like you begin to identify with those things. So one thing is to identify with the body, this corpse. And the other thing is to identify with all these other things that we surround ourselves in family life and household life, thinking that we have an eternal relationship with them. Because we don't. That's the fact of the matter. The reality is that according to our karma and the supervision of the Lord, then you know, the soul takes birth, acquires a set of parents, a mother and a father, and then those parents have a responsibility to, you know, care for the child until adulthood, hopefully, and but also according to karma and the supervision of the Lord, they will ultimately be separated somehow or other. That's just an inevitable fact of life. Husband and wife will be separated in due course. Parents and children will be separated in due course. Friends will be separated in due course. All of these material relationships, especially bodily relationships, are temporary. And there are verses in the Bhagavatam that talk about that. I'll just refer to a couple here. So this is speaking this verse. Anyways, this is from Bhagavatam 7:2-21. The translation goes, "My dear mother, in a restaurant or place for drinking cold water, many travelers are brought together, and after drinking water, they continue to their respective destinations."
Oh, it's Hiranyakashipu, isn't it?
This is Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah.
But Prabhupada says in the purport that this is bona fide. Good instruction. Similarly, living entities join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their destinations. So then I'll read a little excerpt from the purport here. Prabhupada writes, "All the living entities in this material world have come here only because they wanted to be equal to Krishna in enjoyment, and have thus been sent here to be conditioned by material nature in different degrees." So that's why we're here, because we want to be Krishna. We want to enjoy like Krishna. But this material world is like a prison. So this desire, because the desire to enjoy like Krishna is it's an unnatural, it's actually an unlawful desire. So by having this desire, we get placed into a prison. And the prison is the material world. And according to the degree of our ignorance or our envy, then the conditions of our prison sentence are long or short, or, you know, easy or harsh. So he says that material world is like a prison, and the so-called family is a combination of several persons in one home to fulfill the terms of their imprisonment. So whether you get, so you know, if you're not too bad of a criminal, you might get a nice husband, a nice wife who treats you nicely. You might get nice children, you know, who are enjoyable to raise, make you happy. Or you might get, you know, a really nightmarish family situation.
Yep.
According to
Yep.
how bad you are, how deep your envy of Krishna is. So, Prabhupada continues. As criminal prisoners scatter as soon as their terms are over and they are released, all of us who have temporarily assembled as family members will continue to our respective destinations. So yeah, so as soon as we get put with certain personalities in the family situation in order to, you know, grind away the conditioning, you know, the friction and the tension that exists in family life is meant to, like, you know, purify us of this false conceptions, misconceptions that led to us being in the material world. And as soon as we've learned the lessons that we're meant to learn from these people who Krishna puts us with, then we don't need to be with them anymore. Ariana?
And that's after we transmigrate through like some 8 billion species, and then we still have whatever caring envy that.
Yeah, we're talking about the human form of life here, what happens in the human form. Because animals don't really have strong attachments to family, they don't stay together, you know. Is that Kevin?
Is it possible that in the same household, like, you know how all souls, it's mentioned they're all eternal?
Yeah.
That you could build an eternal relationship with another soul, or that relationship is only saved for Krishna?
You can have an eternal relationship with another soul, but generally it's not that common. You know, it's unlikely. It's usually just like we're put together because of karma. The relationship with the spiritual master is said to be an eternal relationship. So, you know, when we go back to the spiritual world, we could have a connection with our guru, and we could also have a connection with, you know, devotees who play significant parts in our spiritual life. But in terms of bodily connections, I've asked this question before, and I asked Ujjani Vasprabhu in Mayapur, and he said that not really. It's kind of like, you know, sentimental attachment that we have that, you know, we're going to be together forever, but it's not really confirmed by the scriptures or the acharyas. Okay. Another example given is that family members are like straws carried together by the waves of a river. Sometimes such straws mix together in whirlpools, and later they're dispersed again by the same waves, and they float alone in the water. So you see this that on a river, some little twigs and things, leaves that are floating, they come together in a little lump, and then because of the waves they're separated. So it's like that. And yeah, so a person who thinks, getting back to the verse, a person who thinks that this spouse and children are going to be permanently our own is an illusion, and is no better than a cow or an ass, again, because it's like, it's an animal mentality because it's lacking spiritual vision. That's why he keeps comparing to animals, because animals don't have a higher intelligence, they don't have spiritual vision. And as human beings, we're meant to have spiritual vision. We're meant to perceive each other as spiritual beings. We're having a material experience because we have lessons to learn. We need to be purified. We need to, you know, reestablish our relationship with Krishna, and that the people in our lives, Krishna has arranged in order to facilitate that. And so we should appreciate each other, even if, you know, the relationships are strained or, you know, difficult in family life. But actually, it's all for our ultimate good. So even if we have a nightmarish family situation, it's all good, you know, because Krishna arranged that, especially for our purification. So we shouldn't identify it, but we should appreciate it. And we should be grateful to our family members for helping us learn those important lessons.
It couldn't have been any different than it was.
Well, it's by karma. It's by karma and the supervision of the Lord.
It couldn't have been, in retrospect, it couldn't have happened any different than it did in my life. I think that way.
It could have. I mean, you could do different. Your karma. You could have done different things and generated different karma, and then had a different life. But according to what you did and the choices you made in your life, you got a situation.
To work with.
Yeah. Okay. So then what's the next category of people?
Those who just go to holy places to bathe.
Identify
Before that.
The birthplace.
Identify with the land of birth.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another illusion. That,
America.
America. That I'm American.
God bless America and no
And
place
this,
else.
yes.
Just like that, there's this song that I learned when I was growing up. This land is your land, this land is my land. And that's persons from other countries. Everybody learns that song.
Yeah.
And just in their country.
Yeah, they
I
have
was amazed.
What song?
This land is your land, this land is my land.
From California.
But in India they have the same song with different regions and things things like this, and my wife is Hungarian, they have this song,
Yeah.
and different,
In India, there's
so everybody has from this to that, etc.
Yeah. And my husband's from Brazil, and he would say that they have a song that says something like, God must be Brazilian, because
God must be Brazilian.
because Brazil is the most beautiful country. And
Everyone gets this.
so yeah, everybody's attached to the country, and no matter how lousy their country is, even if it's a third world country, they still think it's the best country on the planet. And then people from their country are the nicest people in the world, and their language is the sweetest sounding language. Their food is the best food. Yeah.
Even with steaks in the United States.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
State consciousness.
Not only
Or even which school you go to, right? It's like, my school is the best school, and all other schools suck. So, yeah. So we have this tendency to identify with whatever we belong to, basically. And so nationalism becomes a very strong thing, patriotism, and statism. Yeah, but because we're not these bodies, then we don't really have a connection with the country that our bodies took birth in. It's the same thing. It's just an extension of the family idea that, I'm attached to these family members because I took birth in this family. I'm attached to this body because I took birth in this body. I'm attached to this country because I took birth in this country. So it's all just extensions of bodily identification. Kevin?
it just seems like it's all like a big misconnection. Everybody wants to belong to something. Or
Yes.
someone or
You got it.
something. It's like they're all feeling all isolated.
Yeah.
They just need Krishna.
Yeah, we just need to identify with Krishna. And that's what he's saying. That's exactly what he's saying here. That we need to identify with... Go to the verse again, please. But they never identify themselves with those who are wise in spiritual truth. So rather than identifying with the body, with our bodily relationships, with our country that we're born in, we need to identify ourselves with those who are wise in spiritual truth. We need to identify ourselves with the devotees. Because the country that we're born in, it's just another, it's also fulfilling the terms of our imprisonment. Because when we take birth in the country, we have certain rights or lack of rights. We have certain standard of living that goes along with that. We have certain educational facilities and standards. But it's just like the prison cell. It's the cell. And then if I think that my country is better, it's like saying my prison cell is better than your prison cell. Which may be true, but it's nothing to be proud of. It's nothing to give your life for. There's always ready to give your life for your country. Why would you give your life for your prison cell? Jiva.
In the commentary to the Uddhava Gita, Bhakti Siddhanta says that Uddhava was instructed by Krishna to give up his relationship with the Yadu dynasty. In two ways. There's two ways he was identified as bodily relationships and in connection with Krishna. So he was instructed to give up the bodily relationship with the devotees, basically, but keep the relationship dynamic that they all had with Krishna.
Yeah.
So, but kind of like developing a bodily relationship with devotees is like kind of recommended, right? To kind of gain that attachment to devotee communities.
Yeah. Yeah, Kuti Devi also prayed something. So she said, please sever the bonds of affection for my kinsmen.
Yeah.
Who were her kinsmen? The Pandavas. they were pure devotees. So why is she saying, sever my bonds of affection? It's not that she doesn't want to be connected or have affection for the devotees, but she wanted to cut the attachment to the bodily relationship. She wanted to appreciate her sons and her family members as devotees because of their relationship with Krishna, not because of the bodily connection. So even as devotees, we have, let's say you get a devotee wife and you have devotee children who are very Krishna conscious. So there's a difference between seeing them as my family and seeing them as Krishna's devotees who I have the responsibility to serve and care for. So that's the difference. And if you see them as Krishna's devotees, then Krishna has put his soul in my care, and it's my responsibility to help them cultivate their Krishna consciousness so that they can further the development in this lifetime. then family life becomes very transcendental. And we see that our role in this soul's journey is just a temporary role, right? Like they have had previous parents who have helped them in different ways. Now they're with me, I'm going to help them. They have a future, I'll play my role and that will come to an end. I'm not going to be with them forever. I'll do my part here, I'll help them to the extent that I can. And then after that, they're going to go their own way. They're going to have other mentors. They're going to have other people who protect them. You see, we're just playing a small part in that soul's journey. Nicholas.
Like Bhakti Vinod Thakur had a bhajan where he pretty much said that same thing. Like he viewed his house as like he had stewardship over Krishna's home, and he had like 15 children or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said that that he'd been charged with raising Krishna's maidservants and this or that, and in that way he was really blessed because like all the service that he was able to do for Krishna instead of just like all. It could have been a superintendent position for anyone else.
Yeah.
But he saw it as like a service opportunity.
That's right. Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, I always looked at my family life that way, that it was like so much opportunity for Vaishnav Seva, intimate Vaishnav Seva, 24/7 Vaishnav Seva with kids. So it's nice. Yeah.
And then what do you do when, like, in my case, like my parents aren't devotees, like even some of your family aren't devotees, like what do you do then? How do you use that in Christian service?
You just try to do whatever you can to help them be favorable towards devotees and Krishna consciousness. So that may just be being a nice person, being kind and loving to them, so that they keep a favorable attitude towards you, and then that will help them. Jiva. Oh, Whitney. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Okay. So if somebody has a very difficult person in their family, and they're very resistant to this, is that my karma from a past life? And maybe I can learn a super lot from this person. It's my daughter. So, she's so anti. Is that a punishment or is that a chance to move on?
Yeah, it's definitely something that Krishna arranged for you as some kind of challenge that you need to learn a lesson from it.
Yeah. But then I have the boy to even it out. So
Yeah.
we're on
Yeah.
Think about your boys.
Kevin has a question.
Kevin.
Yeah.
We're gonna finish this one. Hey, go for it.
I just think that, you know how you said that once you do service for your children, for them to be Krishna conscious, it's not like a bad thing because once they go through their thing, then you have like your opportunity to pursue your Krishna consciousness like more concentrated.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, George.
Some say that we write our script before we come in. Does that make any sense at all?
Well, we're constantly writing our script. Every second we're writing our script.
Like that.
That's why we need to be conscious of what we're doing in the present. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, forget the past that sleeps, and never the future dream at all, but live in times that are with thee, and progress you shall call. Because the past, it's done. Whatever's done is done. The future, we don't know. But we can only act in the present moment. And it's in this present moment that we're building our future, creating our future. So we need to be conscious of what we're doing in the present and what consciousness we're doing it in, what our intention is. And keep adjusting that so that if you want to, in your future, if your future plans are to go back to Godhead, become a pure devotee, then we need to cultivate that now. Anantapala.
I have a question. Rupa Goswami mentions when we associate with devotees, also within that association, we should look for that association that's swajati, meaning people with the same standard or having the same standard mood and character amongst Vaishnavas. So how do we understand that from a transcendental perspective over these differentiations?
You mean, I don't understand how it's any
Yeah,
contradictory terms.
Yeah, how do you define Swajati in the sense? Sometimes with the material context in our mind, when we say Swajati, devotees with same characteristics.
Like-minded devotees.
Like-minded devotees. Sometimes we can cast our own material concept on it that, oh, you know, devotees with certain mentalities and certain things. But still, that is still a material, designation. How do we understand and decipher?
Well, I think association with devotees is a general thing, and then of course there's going to be devotees that you're going to click with a bit more and feel more inspired by being with. So yeah, we have to, just as a general principle, we have to accept what's favorable and reject what's unfavorable. So if you feel really super inspired in Krishna consciousness in the company of, a devotee or another devotee, then associate with those devotees. Associate with devotees that inspire you, make you happy to be a devotee, and make you enthused to serve Krishna, and who you feel like you can really work well together with, and do nice things for the pleasure of the Guru and Krishna. And then if there's some devotees that they kind of like make you feel like unenthused, they discourage you, you feel like when you're with them you just feel sort of like locked up, your devotion doesn't flow, then you can appreciate them and respect them from a little distance. Okay? Alright. So let's get to the purport, because we've been talking a lot about how this material life is like a prison cell. The country that we're born in is our prison cell, and the family that we're born into is like the people who are helping us fulfill the terms of our imprisonment. So, but by identifying with the devotees, and identifying with Krishna, and identifying oneself that I am a servant of Krishna, then, that's something to be proud of. That's something to give your life to, and that's how we get free from the prison. So, the purport here, I think I'll just read parts of it. The true intelligence is shown by one's freedom from false identification of the self. So this is real intelligence, to get free from this false identification with the body, with the family, with the country. And scroll down, just go more down. Someone like to read this paragraph?
A imperfect Vaishnava advancing toward the second-class platform identifies himself with the sages who have established the true path, even while he still may have some inferior material attachments to body, family, and so on. Such a devotee of the Lord is not a foolish cow or stubborn ass like the majority of materialists. But most excellent is the Vaishnava who has gained the special mercy of the Lord and broken free from the bondage of illusory attachments altogether.
Alright, so here he's giving two different levels of devotees. So there's one level of devotee that he identifies himself with the devotees. That I'm a devotee and I associate with devotees. That's what I do. I serve Krishna with the devotees. But at the same time, he's still a little attached to the body, to family, to country. So he said that person is not a cow or an ass, because they're moving in the right direction. They understand, at least theoretically, who they are and what they should do in their beginning spiritual life. But they're not as good as the person who is just completely, attached to Krishna with no other material affinities. Jiva?
I had this conversation the other day with a devotee, just about being in the black race, blah blah blah, saving all this crap. And so one of the things was just help raise up the ancestors from the plight and all this. So kind of not identifying with the body, but taking it upon myself as one of my duties on the earth to help with the whole ordeal that had gone down and advance the position of the race. Do you qualify as that or something, like not identifying with the body but still kind of using it as some sort of platform to do devotional service?
Yeah, that's the philosophy, is to dovetail our attachments. Right? The way that we purify ourselves of attachments and ultimately get free from these attachments is to engage them in Krishna service. right? So long you grew up identifying with a particular race.
Yeah.
So now you're beginning to understand that actually I'm not this body, I'm not this race. But still, I have some connection to it because of my past karma, and I still have this, prarabdha karma of having a black body in the material world.
Yeah.
So let me use that for Krishna.
Okay.
Let me, engage in Krishna's service. Parker.
Just on like a practical level, from what I understand from his books, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was also in that same vein that he was pushing to go to Africa because nothing was really getting started there. And he's like, I can do it, I can do it. Respect me more than like Brahmananda. So, and he did it and it exploded. He was already in a civil rights activist group.
Yeah.
And so he just used that.
Yeah. So we have to make good use of our experiences and whatever we have. Everybody's different. And those differences are actually assets, that we can use in the service of Krishna. So we should not be ungrateful for anything that Krishna has given us.
Just a quick point on that. Even Prabhupada, he saw everybody as spiritual, but he thought strategically as well. He thought that if Americans take this up and they go to India, then Indians will take this up. So in one sense, one can say Prabhupada was focusing on the body, but actually he was just seeing what can be used in Krishna's service.
Exactly, yeah, good example. Yeah. So basically what Prabhupada, this is actually the devotees of Prabhupada, the disciples of Prabhupada, but they're making this point that by association with devotees, identifying with devotees, then that helps us to move from the Kanishta to the Madhyam platform. Because this verse is describing the Kanishta mentality, right? That somebody goes to a holy place, not to associate with devotees, but just to take bath in the holy river, or to go to the temple and bow down to the deities. So we see, I lived in holy dhams in India for many years, and many people will just come, they'll go in the temple, they'll bow down, they'll go to the Ganga or Yamuna, they'll take their bath, they'll get some prasadam, pack it up, go home. It's done. We went to Vrindavan, we went to Mayapur, we had the experience. But it's they didn't have the experience, because the whole purpose of going to the holy dham is to associate with the advanced devotees that live there, and so.
Just something in that regard.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes persons will come to see Prabhupada for curing some pain they have in their knee or something like this. Once again, not knowing how to take advantage of that association.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's actually the devotees that make the holy places holy. The presence of the devotees there is what makes them holy. And I'll give you some evidence for that. So in the 9th canto, when King Bhagirath wanted to bring the Ganges down to earth, so he was doing austerities, and then the Ganga Devi, the personified form of the Ganges River, she spoke to him and she said, "O King, I do not wish to go down to the planet Earth, for sinful people are going to come and take bath in my waters, and I'm going to have to, absorb all the reactions of their sins, and those sins are going to accumulate in me, and I'm going to become contaminated. And I don't want that. I want to go to Earth just to get full of other people's sins." And then he told her, he said, "Don't worry, because saintly people who are advanced in devotional service and free from material desires, pure devotees who are expert in following regular principles, they will come and bathe in your waters. And the sinful reactions that are accumulated from other people will be counteracted. For such devotees always keep in the core of their hearts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can vanquish all sinful reactions." So people go to the Ganges to take bath in the Ganges thinking that's... But what makes the Ganges pure is the devotees that bathe in the Ganges. They clean the Ganges. And so it's actually that the devotees are more powerful than the Ganges. Amazing, right? And Banhari Guru.
Wouldn't the Gandhi personified also have the Lord within your heart?
I guess so. Yeah. She's also a devotee, right?
She's also devotee.
She's also a devotee. then Yudhisthira makes a really nice statement in the first canto, and he says, what to speak of the devotees making the holy places more pure, making the holy places valuable, but the pure devotees are actually themselves walking places of pilgrimage. He says, Bhavad-vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vivo Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani Swantastena Gadabhita. Yeah, that he says that devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Why? Because you carry the personality of Godhead in your heart. Then you turn all places into places of pilgrimage. So now, yeah.
Prabhupada says that when the pure devotee goes and takes bath in the holy sites of pilgrimage, they relieve the burden of the holy site of pilgrimage, but taking all the sins from that's deposited over there.
Yeah, but it's actually Krishna, because only Krishna can really. Just like Alakantu was making a point before, that only Krishna, it's Krishna that liberates the jiva. And so it's really only Krishna that can neutralize sinful reactions. And that's why the pure devotee, the reason that the pure devotee can purify the holy places is because Krishna is in the heart. Swanta stena gadavita. And so how do the devotees keep Krishna in their hearts? By their pure devotional service, by always chanting Hare Krishna. And that's what Prabhupada says in the purport, that the pure devotees hear from the authorities and chant, sing, and write of the glories of the Lord. Vyasadeva heard from Narada, and then he chanted in writing. Shukadeva Goswami studied from his father, and he described it to Parikshit. That is the way of Srimad Bhagavatam. So by their actions, the pure devotees of the Lord can render any place into a place of pilgrimage. And the holy places are worth the name only on their account. Such pure devotees are able to rectify the polluted atmosphere of any place. So, yeah, and we experienced this when we went on our spring break trip. We went to this Airbnb. When we first walked in, it was just a complete, karmi dwelling. And then, but because we were so intensely, chanting and discussing Krishna Katha, reading together, cooking and offering food to Krishna, we were just like, we felt that the place, devotees were commenting that, this place transformed. It's become like an ashram. It's like a temple. It's like a holy place. We changed that Airbnb into a holy place of pilgrimage.
Bhakti BNB.
What's that?
Bhakti BNB.
Bhakti BNB. Yeah. So, yeah, it's really our attachment to the devotees that's going to save us. And the point that the general point that Prabhupada's making is that human civilization, which is devoid of Krishna consciousness, is basically a civilization of lower animals, like cows and asses and other animals. So, sometimes we say that this materialistic civilization is an animalistic civilization. But there's hope for this animalistic civilization, because Lord Chaitanya was so kind that he brought a process which is so powerful that it can change the hearts even of animalistic people. As in the song Parama Karuna, Dekore bai tribhuvanenai emona dayala data Pashu Pati Jure Pashana Vidare Junijara Gunagata. So the translation is, my dear brother, just try and examine this. Within the three worlds there is no one like Lord Chaitanya or Lord Nityananda. Their merciful qualities are so great that upon hearing them, even birds and beasts cry and stones melt. So by hearing about Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, about hearing their instructions, about hearing the holy names, following the process that they've given us of chanting the holy name, then even birds and beasts can cry in ecstasy, and their hearts can be transformed. So what to speak of human beings who are living an animalistic life? It's even easier for them than ordinary birds and beasts. So Lord Chaitanya is given hope to this world. He's the most magnanimous Mahavadanyaya avatar. He's Patita Pavana. And the pure devotees are also Patita Pavana. And by their association, we can get purified. I'll just end by reading a very nice verse here from the 5th canto. Let's skip the Sanskrit. So the English is this. By associating with persons for whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda is the all in all, one can hear of his powerful activities and soon come to understand them. The activities of Mukunda, which is another name for Krishna, are so potent that simply by hearing of them one immediately associates with the Lord. For a person who constantly and very eagerly hears narrations of the Lord's powerful activities, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead in the form of sound vibrations, enters within his heart and cleanses it of all contamination. On the other hand, although bathing in the Ganges diminishes bodily contaminations and infections, this process, in other words, associating with devotees and hearing from them about Krishna, this process can, the process of bathing in the Ganges and visiting holy places can cleanse the heart only after a long time. But the process of associating with devotees and hearing from them about Krishna acts very quickly. Therefore, who is the sane man who will not associate with devotees to quickly perfect his life? And that's what this verse is saying, is that people who don't identify with, associate with, worship, and serve the devotees, those who are wise in spiritual truth, are no better than cows and asses. So we need to spread the movement of Lord Chaitanya and somehow or other attract these cows and asses, change their hearts, and give them an attraction to associate with devotees so that they can hear about Krishna and perfect their lives. Okay. Hemant.
Can you talk a little bit about the second type of devotees? The devotees.
Which type?
Sorry. They're all together. They leave everything all together. Something in the purport.
In the purport? The ones who, the excellent ones who, you probably use the word excellent then. I have the purport here, just nice. Go to the verse. The excellent ones. Okay, he says, yeah. But most excellent is the Vaishnava who has gained the special mercy of the Lord and broken free from the bondage of illusory attachments altogether. That one? Yeah, so this is a pure devotee who he totally identifies that I am the servant of Krishna. I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. I'm a devotee of Krishna. There's nothing else for me to do except serve Krishna. My life is for that only. And whatever is favorable for my service, I accept. Whatever is unfavorable for my service, I don't bother with. And yeah, he's a humble soul who dedicates himself to serving Krishna. Jiva.
So in that light, it's okay to accept the family, right? Because we kind of did just a fashionable idea just now in the verse about accepting bodily relationships and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's okay to have a family.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having bodily relationships. The problem is identifying with these bodily relationships and thinking that these are mine. That this is my wife, my husband, my children, and they will be so forever.
Yeah, and my object of enjoyment.
These are here for my enjoyment, for my service, to give me pleasure. That I am, the Lord and Master of my household, and it is mine.
But the way that you've explained it, that these Jews have come here, they're in these bodies, I'm their caretaker to make sure that they learn whatever lessons, and I learn whatever lessons from them.
Yeah.
And we're temporarily here to stop and then finish, right?
Yeah, I'm here to purify myself of whatever mentality created this karma that I got to be with these people, and also to help them to make advancement closer to Krishna and serve them for that purpose, and also myself to take shelter of Krishna and try to focus on my relationship with him and appreciate the extent to which my family members are helping me to develop my relationship with Krishna.
Queen Kunti's prayers, very exalted prayers. today, this morning, I was hearing also Queen Kunti when the Pandavas were being exiled, and she was crying out to Krishna, Krishna, where are you? It's not exactly the same flavor as the prayers that we are more familiar with. And so, just going back to the question that Hemant was asking about that, just the progression of a devotee, and all of that is tested, just like in a crucible for purifying things, there's heat that's added, etc. So the challenges of just being in the material world for everyone can act in the same way to purify, and that's kind of the distinction. You see that even in that example of, or following the example of Queen Kunti through the different trials and tribulations that went through that. So to come to that point of those prayers, there's a lot that she went through to bring her to that point.
Yeah, Sachinanda Swami tells this little narration of the clay pot, the pottery. So he says that the potter, he takes a lump of clay. So we're in the material world, we're like lumps of clay, got bits of written in us, air bubbles and all that. So the potter, he takes this lump of clay and he, kneads it. He like squishes it and squashes it and presses it and to get the air out. And he picks the little, he like spreads it all out, picks out the little stones and grains, and then kneads it some more. So it's all this pressing and so it seems like he's handling this clay a little roughly, but it's all, for the sake of getting out the unwanted things. And then he presses it more and uses his tools. Maybe he has to scratch it and stuff, but it's also that it becomes strong. And it takes a form which is, a suitable form.
Beautifying it.
Beautifying it. And then he puts it in the oven and he fires it, extremely high temperature. Because if he didn't get all the air bubbles out, it would explode at that point. So that pressing and crushing and smashing and bashing was necessary for it to survive the next stage. Right? It's like brahmachari life.
Crushing and the bashing and the smashing.
So that you can survive the hasta life.
Otherwise you'll explode.
Is when you really go into the fire. But if you don't go through that fire, then you're just gonna, like clay. If you don't fire it, it doesn't hold. It's just going to absorb water from the atmosphere and just go into mush again afterwards, So the fire makes it solid. But it looks like, he's being really mean, putting the little clay in there. And then then it comes out and it's like solid and it's durable. But still he needs to polish it. He needs to like sand off the, rough edges. He needs to paint it. He uses these harsh chemicals and glazing and thing. And so there's all this processing. Basically, what we're going through in the material world is like intensive processing, stages of processing. So to bring us from a lump of clay full of, unwanted particles and air bubbles and problematic things to like a beautiful, shiny work of art for Krishna. So we just have to be patient and tolerant and stick to the process, and don't run away because the fire gets hot or because we're getting pressed too hard. Because if you just stay with it, keep chanting Hare Krishna, following the principles, associating with devotees, serving the devotees, one day we'll be a beautiful work of art in Krishna's lotus feet. Any last questions or comments? Charge it for.
I don't think it means that everybody except the devotees of Krishna are cows, asses, and really we should kind of look down on them. Just one example. There's many. One example is even Radhanath's ticket. He says very clearly, a good Christian. I mean, we're not a good Christian, where that is. That's really such
Yeah. Well, the verse is not saying ISKCON devotees. The verse is saying those who are wise in spiritual truth. So it's not only in ISKCON that you can be wise in spiritual truth. The point is that we need to associate with people who are wise in spiritual truth, serve them, and learn from them. Jiva.
Oh, yeah. I Ubered a lady the other day. She saw my whatever this is, kind of a Shiva, but she was like, "Oh, you're a Krishna," and I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "I'm a Christian," and I was like, "Oh," and I was waiting for like the,
Wait, going to hell?
Yeah, I was like waiting for it, and she's like, "My husband's a Christian," and I was like, "What?" It's 20 years, 3 kids, and I was like, "Whoa!" And she just told me how love won the battle instead of them going like that. Love won the battle. They both understood that they're spirit souls and that they're serving their God, and they're married. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So yeah,
Nice.
And she's vegetarian. So that's pretty
Cool.
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
She's wise.
Interfaith marriage.
She's Christian.
Yeah. They're both wise, and so they transcended I mean, Prabhupada talks about, he says that faith can change, but really all religions have the ultimate goal of establishing love for God. So when she said that love prevailed, their love for God, and then they were able to unite as lovers of God and love each other.
Yeah.
Nice. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanandi.
Yashista Shanasanta Bhajate Sarva